All right, here we go. Week 10, final week of regular season action. Aaron Williams here with Record Searchlight Preps reporter TJ Holmes. How's it going, TJ?
Pretty good, Aaron. Ready for the last week of the season?
I'm getting there. It's been a crazy roller coaster ride, and just like we find ourselves at this point every season, there are some certainties, and there are a whole bunch of questions heading into Week 10. And this year is no different. And the one certainty, like death, taxes, and I guess you can call it paradise football, despite their loss last week to the Shasta Wolves in overtime, it looks like Paradise has locked up the number one seed in Division One.
Yeah, and looking at the playoff points, talking to Max Preps and Northern Section guy Kevin Askelin, he kind of said, unless Paradise loses to 1-8 Oroville this week, they're gonna happen. Yeah, they're gonna have the number one seed. So that kind of leaves it up in the air for the other bye in D1.
Exactly, and right now we've got West Valley at the 2 spot, Foothill 3, Shasta 4, Chico 5, Enterprise 6. Those 6 teams are locked in the playoffs. It can't be bounced out. Now it just becomes a matter of where you're going to sit at the dance. Sit at what seat you're going to sit in once the music stops in kind of this merry-go-round of things. Foothill holds its own destiny. If they win, they beat PV this week. They're going to get a 2 seed, and deservedly so.
Yeah, and that would put them at 9-1 with some big wins against out-area teams. Big wins. I mean, they destroyed Chico last week, so that was a game that Paradise played closely. So I mean, that second seed, if they beat PV, is very deserving for what they get.
Definitely. The 4-5 matchup is an out-of-town matchup, but it is going to be. It looks like, in all likelihood, it is going to be a preview of what we're going to come for the first week of playoffs, and that is Shasta travels to Chico this week. The winner probably gets the home field advantage for the first round of the playoffs when these two schools meet again. And this isn't a first-time occurrence. This has happened before, where these two teams play on the final week of the season, only to come back. I mean, it happened last year.
It happened last year, yeah. And Shasta put up 63 on them in Week 10, and then ended up putting, I think, in the 40s on them. Just annihilated them at home again. They played back-to-back home games against Chico last year.
And I guess the X factor in the Shasta-Chico matchup is that Chris Collins' status is uncertain. He was knocked out of the Paradise game, with a broken thumb.
He actually broke his thumb up into his knuckle on his throwing hand. So now Shasta's coach Aaron Gingery told me yesterday he's out for the season.
Out for the season.
So they actually brought up a sophomore quarterback from JV to start this week against Chico.
There you go. And I mean, so it's this game. You want the home field. But in the grand scheme of things, and I've seen this happen with the River Bowl, where Shasta beat Enterprise that first year that they won. Shasta beat Enterprise in the regular season, and then Enterprise comes back in playoffs and wins, and that's the game you really want to win. You'd like home field advantage if you're Shasta, but at the same time, this Week 10 game is not the one you need to win.
No, it's the one that they need to win is next week's game, win the playoffs, because this week they're already guaranteed the playoffs. They can kind of test their sophomore quarterback out there, kind of throw a few different things at Chico, not give away too much since, they want home field advantage, but they're going to be playing this exact same team next week, most likely. So you don't want to give away too much, because the one you want to win is next week, not tonight.
Exactly. And so then in the 6th spot right now, you've got Enterprise. They go to Lassen, which, I walked in here today in a sweater and kind of chilly. It's not going to be a fun trip up to Susanville.
It's supposed to be around 17 degrees at kickoff up there.
Regardless, I think, of whether they win or lose, they look to me like they're locked into the 6th spot. The X factor in all of this right now, it is preludes into our Game of the Week coverage, which is the annual Valley Bowl. Central Valley comes to West Valley. West Valley, at 7-2, kind of a prohibitive favorite. Got a couple of scenarios in this game that are interesting, in that if West Valley wins, they go to 8-2. They play in a D2 league in the NAL, but you can say, hey, we've earned enough to get ourselves a home field game, and possibly, and I don't think the points will bear it out in the end, but you can make the argument if you're West Valley, hey, we've done enough, we've done our job. In order, they've beaten D1 teams to get maybe ourselves a first round bye. They probably will, definitely, if they win, will get a first round home game.
Yeah, and that's one of the arguments that they have is that, They had their schedules already set going into this year, and then they just got bumped up into D1 by a matter of 4 students in their entire school, and Corning dropped down to D2. So they're basically being penalized against their will with their strength of schedule because of the fact that they moved into D1.
Oh, and if they're in D2, look at their strength of schedule. It's huge, and they probably, Sutter 9-0, Orland 8-1. That's I would put an 8-2 West Valley team up against Sutter and Orland in a 3-team crapshoot. I would probably take West Valley.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, the fact that they're pretty much getting penalized for that, but I mean, at the end of the day, you see if Foothill wins against PV, you see a 9-1 Foothill playing all D1 teams except for Anderson, and then you see an 8-2 West Valley. You kind of have to give them that extra edge.
No, definitely. But even if they win and they fall down to the 3, they get a home game, possibly against Enterprise, which beat them by 20 at home. So that adds a little bit of sting, if you will, for the Hornets, and a little bit of the grumblings have been out there on the message boards all week, TJ. I've seen them, I've read them, and I can't say I necessarily disagree with it, but at the same time, Enterprise, you don't like it, then beat them.
Yeah, and Enterprise, this just adds even more to the season for Enterprise playing with that chip on their shoulder. Like, they still have something to prove. They beat West Valley by 20. I mean, saying that if they end up meeting in the first week of the playoffs, they beat them by 20 at home in that game, and now they're gonna have to go to West Valley and try and do it again. I mean, that's just adding to Enterprise's mystique of playing with that chip on their shoulder, trying to show that they really are good, and they're gonna have to do it on the road all in the playoffs.
They are good. They've on a little bit of a downswing, but I will say this about that West Valley Enterprise game, and you were there, and I covered it on the radio on Fox Sports Radio 1670, is that if West Valley doesn't spot them, and if and buts are Pizza Huts, but if West Valley doesn't spot them 14 points in the first 35 seconds of the ball game, it's a 6-point margin.
Yeah,
it's an entirely different ball game. West Valley came out and brain farted that game away. If they don't, they played them pretty even from the other minus 35 seconds of that ball game, 47 minutes and 25 seconds. They played them pretty easily.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying with that, but at the same time, the if, ands, and buts are Pizza Huts. But I mean, play calling changes on situations, and so you really can't say too much about that.
I completely agree, but if you're West Valley, you're looking at that going, hey, keep talking some smack about us. We gave you 2 touchdowns in 35 seconds. And we're not going to do that this time. So you better strap it on and bring your big boy pants, because it's going to be a football game. Mm-hmm. The other thing about the West Valley game is this is a must-win for Central Valley. They come in 5-4. Wairika comes in 5-4. Wairika's hosting Anderson. Anderson has to win, and Central Valley has to win over West Valley in order for the Falcons to make the playoffs. And in talking to some of the coaches, I believe this would be the first time in Matt Hunsaker's tenure here at Central Valley, and I think the first time in God knows how long, I think 17 or 18 years, that Hunsaker wouldn't be in the playoffs. And that is, much like the Enterprise streak of last year, that is, to me, amazing.
No, yeah, that is really tough to even wrap my head around for this. And Matt Hunsaker is one of the best coaches in the Northern Section. We have great coaches for every team. I mean, across the whole area. But the fact that last year CVU was kind of going in the same situation in the Valley Bowl last year is that they needed a win to make sure that they made the playoffs, and they went out and they beat West Valley at home. Yeah, this year they're going on the road, and this year they're not kind of in control of their own destiny like they were last year. If they win, they make the playoffs. This year it's a little bit different because they have to have a Wairika loss. So it's a little bit different. They're going to have to get some luck on their side, but they have to still take care of business first.
No, definitely, and that'll be interesting. They've had some injuries, and everybody's had some injuries, Shasta, and everybody's had those injuries. Losing Silvera with a broken collarbone didn't hurt. Losing their quarterback right before league starts down to the JV team, that hurts. But this is one of those cases that if I'm West Valley, I'm Jim Vert and Greg Grandel, I'm looking and saying, hey, there's a wounded dog here. Do not let it bite us.
Yeah, and Central Valley could have that bite in them. They could have that fire that, hey, this could be their last game of the season. For these seniors, this could be their last game as a high school football player. So that's going to add a lot of emotion to this game. So you can't take Central Valley lightly.
No, you definitely can, and so that kind of is the D1 action. The other interesting game here, two other interesting games for me, TJ. Sutter Orland. It was building up to be the 9-0, 9-0 showdown, and Wairika kind of put a monkey wrench in that, beating Orland last week. But this is still going to be a great football game of two top teams in D2, and
the top team will end up taking the top seed in that, or the winner in that game will take the top seed in D2.
Definitely, it'll be that. It'll be interesting. The other interesting game, just for kind of a car crash perspective on my point, is 0-9 Las Plumas traveling to 1-8 Red Bluff, and curious to see if that third bottom team in the EAL South, Las Plumas, can get its first win, and that would make Oroville, Red Bluff, and Las Plumas all with one win, and I think anybody who's ever looked at the EAL South just goes, oh God, that's so bad. But that's kind of an interesting thing to me. And if you're Red Bluff, hey, you're looking for that second win. It's been a dismal season, but you get that second win and you say, hey, we got two. We won the games we think we should have, and then you go into next year.
Yeah, and I mean, going into this, Red Bluff kind of knew, looking at the schedule this year, that, man, they got some tall tasks ahead of them. They got some monsters on their schedule. But finishing up in the EAL South against an Orville and Las Plumas, that kind of helps a little bit to at least get the seniors, a good win to kind of go away with. But at the same time, Red Bluff lost to Las Plumas by 1 point last year. So this isn't still a gimme game. I mean, I know they destroyed Orville last week, who ended up breaking their losing streak against Las Plumas earlier in the year, but I mean, this is still 0-9 and 1-8. This is still going to be a battle.
Exactly, and the best part about this is questions will be answered tonight on the football field, from the LP Red Bluff game all the way up to Pleasant Valley, Foothill, Shasta, Chico, Enterprise, Lassen, West Valley, Central Valley. And by Saturday, when the playoff seeding committee meets, we will have our playoff set. And just a reminder for those out there, the first round of the playoffs are Thursday next week, correct?
Yeah, because Friday is Veterans Day as a holiday, so they actually moved all of the football games up to Thursday, November 10th.
So we will be back next week dissecting what we see as playoff matchups. For everything that you need to know football-wise, check out Reading.com and the Record Searchlight. I'm sure, TJ, you're going to be on top of the playoff seeding. I'm going to be out Friday calling the Valley Bowl. You're going to be covering that. Check Reading.com, listen to Fox Sports Radio 1670, and we will see you back here next week.